So, after some time had passed since Zani's release, I think now is a fair time to assess all the things surrounding this Employee of the Month. So, in this video, I'll share my post-release thoughts about Zani, what do I think about Spectre Rover and Phoebe, and of course, if I still believe Zani is worth pulling for. Okay, so let's start with the most important fact. I think a lot of analysis and discussions were already done for this holy girl, and how much impact she brings to Zani. But as someone who also likes to pay attention to this game's combat and combos, I wanted to shed some light, because, you know, Spectre's light. Anyway, I wanted to shed some light on Zani's playstyle, and the things I found both good and, well, weird, I guess. Now, take all of what I'm about to say with a massive grain of salt, because I consider myself to be quite a casual in this game, and while making guides for wuwa has been a very enjoyable experience, juggling that many gacha games, both for YouTube and outside of it, because I do have to live up to my name, well, that makes me a generalist, not a specialist when I discuss the finer things of characters like Zani. But as a generalist, here's what I think of Zani's playstyle. I absolutely love it, and I'm not talking about damage numbers right now, but the way you have to pull off combos. I'll admit it, sometimes I just cannot click with the character's combos like with Changli. I just don't find them that intuitive personally, but I can admire those who perfect her playstyle. However, when talking about Zani, I think the best thing about her, in my opinion, has to be the counter playstyle. So far, I have found it to be quite forgiving, and it's pretty easy to pull it off, and it feels oh so satisfying. But I think the other most important thing about this parry mechanic is that it feels like the closest thing to having an unconditional resistance to interruption. And by that, I mean, there's not that many abilities in the game which provide this feeling of invulnerability that sometimes really seems like the best thing to have, especially considering if the game is not played on PC or console. And as someone who has been playing wuwa on my mobile phone due to having some serious health issues, yeah, that's the reason why I didn't post for almost a month after Cantarella Guide. Well, I noticed how I wish I sometimes had easy mode where I can just spam stuff against enemies. And maybe I forgot if someone besides Yuanwu can provide this resistance to interruption, but it's Yuanwu, so I rarely would use him. Anyway, but the point is, I feel like this parry mechanic that Zani does allows me to experience a bit more casual approach to the game, especially when on the phone. And the thing is, her parrying is extremely rewarding, as I've shown in my guide, and even during her Inferno mode, parrying can be a great way to immediately follow up with her highest damaging basic 3 attack. So, long story short, I find this parrying mechanic to be a great way to experience the game more casually, which might sound nonsensical since usually parries are assumed to be an advanced technique, but with Zani, it's pretty easy to pull it off. Now, as for the other combat peculiarities, yeah, I did find her basic 3 during Inferno mode to have a bit of a long animation. Granted, it's the highest damaging attack, but still, I am not the biggest fan when a solution is then provided via the first sequence, which then gives immunity to interruption when doing basic 3 during Inferno mode. But hey, those who will play Zani in quick swap teams, usually that means you'll be, well, swapping off during B3 anyway, so I guess in a way, this is more of a nice perk for those who want to play her without the quick swapping shenanigans. So overall, these are my first impressions of Zani's playstyle, and now I want to focus on another topic. Look, it's no secret by now that Zani needs Spectral Frazzle to unleash good damage. Now, that by itself is already a factor you will need to consider if you're still unsure about pulling for her. But I think the biggest takeaway after using her all this time would be that there's only 2 characters who can help with that, Phoebe and Spectral Rover. And before I even talk about these 2 later on in the video, I think the most important thing to admit right now would be that the teammate options are simply lacking for Zani. Yes, Phoebe is quite insane for her, but it makes me wonder how many more units will come out with Spectral Frazzle in their kit, or perhaps maybe some existing Spectral units will have their kits updated in the future. But the thing is, when looking at Jinshi, sure, not every single one of these coordinated attackers can help with her generating the stacks, but at least those options still exist, however optimized they are. And of course, Cantarella and Jeji came out after Jinshi, so I'm not saying she had all these options from the start, but I don't know about you, I just like it when you have more variety in games. And look, I'm not saying this is a super unique situation we're in. DPS units relying on niche buffers or conditions isn't something new in the gaming space. Heck, even in the gacha space, this is pretty normal. And I guess because wuwa's characters roster is still considerably small even after almost 1 year, I am not surprised with Zani's situation right now. But I am also hoping this doesn't mean her supports end with just Phoebe and Spectral Rover. A pretty decent thought that's been floating around in the community so far would be a solution to release a 4-star unit that can also apply enough Spectral Frazzle to support Zani. I don't think that would matter a lot to those who already pulled for Phoebe, but if we're thinking thinking about the game's future long-term, and if Spectrofrazzle remains a relevant mechanic for other units as well, a 4-star unit who can support this debuff would be pretty nice because, again, just 2 options is not enough right now. And these Zani options become even thinner if you consider the situation Rover is in. You see, Kuro has done a pretty damn good job with Rover, and both attributes so far, Havoc and Spectro, serve as a decent to great alternative solutions for quite a few team comps. Now, as for Arrow, right now the Arrow erosion debuff isn't super relevant, but I believe the next upcoming unit has officially confirmed on global servers that they will play around this mechanic, so again, most likely another W for Rover, but still, here's the thing. All of those attributes still count using the same Rover in Tower, and that means consuming their energy. So if you want to use Havoc Rover on one side of Tower, unfortunately that means if Zani needs Spectral Rover, she won't be able to use them. So again, while the Spectrofrazzle mechanic is pretty interesting, it would be great if more units in the future come out that can apply it consistently enough. Anyway, I've talked long enough about this. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, so regarding the whole debacle between Phoebe and Spectral Rover, I would first like to be frank here and tell you the truth. I am a content creator, and I pull for every unit in this game. Sometimes I even get a couple of sequences because, I don't know, I like the unit, I guess. So the reality of this situation when it comes to me commenting about the debacle is that I have all the units, so obviously I'll use whatever I like when playing. I'm not in this situation where I have to decide how to assign my resources, and I'm not trying to brag here or something. I'm just trying to explain the unusual situation I'm in. And look, quite a few content creators have already commented on this, like my buddy I Win to Lose Gaming, who made a great video you can check out here, and then some other great content creators like Sweetly also made a great video reference to see Phoebe versus Spectral Rover. I'll include their video links in the description. But yeah, at the end of the day, Phoebe remains a strong choice for Zani, but at S0, and when using her in Confession state to apply all those frazzles, she won't be contributing much to overall team's damage, but in exchange, she will boost Zani's damage by a ridiculous amount. On the other hand, Spectral Rover requires a lot more quick swapping and focus to pull off the combos with Zani, and on top of that, since they contribute with personal damage, that means also farming up a good damage set is recommended. On the other hand, Phoebe with a serviceable moodlet set is enough, so it's an interesting situation, and of course, you could even use both of them in the same team, but for example, in my case, I simply use Phoebe because I still like using my Havoc Rover in other parts of the tower, or I guess I have grown too used to Havoc Rover by this point. Anyway, again, my situation is not dictating what's the correct answer here, but it is clear, at least from the analysis done by others, that Phoebe remains an amazing choice for Zani when it comes to boosting her damage. Ultimately, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this, but if you truly care about maximizing Zani's damage in the best way, Phoebe is basically a no-brainer choice, and the math that was done so far just cannot lie about this. Does that mean Zani is incomplete without her? Well, I'd say if you're ready to put in the effort with Spectral Rover and have the necessary build for them, then yeah, it should be fine. Not as great with Phoebe, but still. And also, if you don't concern yourself with meta or Tower of Diversity and other challenges, but just want Zani to beat up world mobs, obviously then it's even irrelevant to be talking about it then. All in all, I'd say Zani definitely has both pros and cons, although I am starting to lose my grip on remaining critical when Zani is wishing me a happy birthday. Did you know you can store their happy birthday greeting into your backpack and pull it out anytime on demand? Insane, I tell you. This Zani's cake is amazing. Oh wait, what? Anyway, hope you found this video interesting, and I'd really appreciate if you could press the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and may we all become Zani's chair.